Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on community-initiated project requests. I am Gina Nickel, the Executive Director of the Association of Oregon Counties. We are pleased to have staff members from U.S. Senators' offices here with us today to explain this federal funding opportunity and make sure that you are prepared to meet the request deadline in February. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's webinar. Our presenters will provide an overview of the process, and then we will have question and answers. You may raise your hand and ask a question or type in the chat. And if you provided questions before today, the presenters will answer those first. I now would like to introduce Nicole from the League of Cities. Nicole? Over to you.
Thank you, Gina. And folks, it's great to be here. The League of Oregon Cities and the Association of Oregon Counties are proud to be bringing you this information directly from our federal delegation in DC. We, of course, know that community-initiated projects are incredibly important to local governments of all sizes, and we're glad to be able to share this opportunity with you and ensure you have the information needed to get your project in the queue. I know there's probably a lot of questions, a lot of detail about the process to go through, so without further ado, I'll pass it over to Sarah Schmidt from Senator Merkley's office to begin walking through that process. Sarah, take it away.
Thank you, Nicole. Nice to be here with everybody. Glad that we could provide this information for you all and this opportunity. First of all, you may hear a few different terms used. Sometimes these projects are called congressionally directed spending requests. Senator Merkley prefers to call them community-initiated projects because of the way that they are rooted in the communities, and we're looking to provide federal funding for projects that are most important to you and the areas of the state that you represent. CIPs, community-initiated projects, are a type of federal grant. The main difference from other federal grants that you may all be familiar with is that the recipients, the amounts, and the purposes of these projects are actually specifically listed in annual appropriations bills. So it becomes federal law that you are awarded this funding. Senator Merkley sits on the Senate Appropriations Committee, and so it is very important to him that we are providing this opportunity for you all and bringing dollars into Oregon communities for your projects. We engage in this process collaboratively with Senator Wyden's office. We have a joint submission portal so that we are streamlining the process a little bit for you all and making it as easy as possible to submit these requests. You may also hear from your House of Representatives, Congress people about community project funding. So we have another fun acronym to throw in there. The House offices all use a slightly different process. So we encourage you to also work with your House member, and we will collaborate with those offices throughout the process, but we encourage you to submit your projects to both our joint Senate process as well as your House member's office. I think Gina may have mentioned the timelines here. Our portal for applications opened yesterday and will be open through this month, closing on Wednesday, February 25th. So this is the season to be submitting these projects. We have sent out the link to our portal for submissions, as well as a guidance document that we'll share here in just a little bit that has additional information about the different accounts that are open for applications. The Appropriations Committee has several subcommittees, and within each of those subcommittees, there are several different accounts. So all of those details will be included in the guidance document. Generally, we take submissions for the Agriculture and Rural Development Subcommittee, Commerce, Justice, Science, and Related Agencies, Energy and Water Development. I know we have a lot of important water projects around the state, Interior, Environment, Labor, Health and Human Services and Education, and then transportation, housing, and urban development. There's a few other ones, but those are usually the main that folks are looking at. So when you take a look at the guidance, please read through carefully. If you have questions about where your project might fit, we have field representatives in both Senator Merkley's office and Senator Wyden's office that are situated regionally around the state and are more than happy to help you talk through your project and figure out what subcommittee might be the right fit for your application. And then, of course, we'll want you to submit all the information that is requested. The requester is responsible for providing accurate information, and we will work with you on that to make sure that you have everything that you need. There are letters of recommendation that are also required. These should be from reputable organizations in your region, government entities. We just want to make sure that you're demonstrating that this project has very strong community support. We also ask that you submit a detailed budget for the project. And then occasionally for certain accounts, you'll need to provide a technical letter from a state agency or local agency to make sure that you are eligible for the project. That's kind of the general overview of the process and what we would expect from you all as you are making your submissions. Also really want to state that, and I'll say it one more time, it's very important to Senator Merkley and Senator Wyden as well that we're bringing dollars into Oregon for these projects. Also important to know that we have a limited amount of funds that we can access through this process. And we have, you know, a huge number of really important worthy projects. So we will work with you. We will do our best, but this is never a guarantee that this funding will be awarded. So just want to set those expectations up front. Good to be aware of that. Please don't count on this funding, but we're gonna do what we can to make sure that dollars come to Oregon. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Senator Wyden's team to talk a little bit about how to submit a strong application.
Hey everyone, Lavanya Mohan here. I direct appropriations for Senator Wyden, and I'm also joined by Jacob and Geneva and Tim on the Wyden team. And so just kind of an overview of what our strong CIP requests. Our best CIP requests are the ones where the requesters have taken time to identify an appropriate account, have understood the requirements of that account to ensure their eligibility for their project, and then have worked to provide the information we're asking for through our portal. So as Sarah mentioned in our guidance document, we've listed out all the subcommittees and specific accounts that we know of that accept CIPs. This is all information based on how things went last year and could change this year, and we'll definitely update you all if that happens. But we've tried to compile all the relevant rules that apply, so please do go through those. And you'll want to look out for matching requirements, procurement regulations, environmental compliance, and maybe some other limitations that are account specific. For example, some accounts don't allow for construction, right? So you'll want to look out for those things. We are aware that we're asking you many different questions to answer in our portal, and we've all worked really hard to simplify this portal and do it jointly. But there's a reason we're soliciting all of that detail. It's what helps us make the best case for your request so that the executive branch agrees that it's a good fit, and so that we can enact your request into law with bipartisan support. We have a lot of members to convince that these are good projects, and so that all the detail you provide us helps us do that. And so here are the details that we really need. We need a purpose. We really, simply put, we need to know what you want to accomplish. Are you building something, designing something, planning something? Let us know. Tell us how it fills a true community need. Your supporting, letters of support help both bolster that narrative, but we also want to hear directly from you how this is filling a true community need. Give us any relevant history explaining why this is a necessary project that requires federal funding. Maybe it doesn't qualify for other grants and state funding or other opportunities, and that's why you really do need these CIP dollars. Give us that history. Tell us what's been going on. Tell us the current status. So let us know if you're in the design stage or the planning stage, or if you've reached the construction stage. Maybe there are phases within each of these stages, right? And in that process, specifically highlight for us how this project will be ready to go, or shovel ready, as we call it, whenever the funds are provided by the federal government for your request, assuming a successful process, right? So this lets us this includes letting us know if you've done environmental reviews or if you're partway through that process. Tell us where you are with all of that. Give us a strong justification for the project, as in why this funding is in the interest of the taxpayer. That's something that we also have to convince appropriators of here in the Senate. And so if you're able to give us more details on that, that's what makes a strong request. And then we have a very helpful budget document that we want all requesters to fill out. But please provide as much detail as possible. So description and breakdown of how the funds that you're requesting will be spent. So if you're, asking for money for salaries or for programming or for equipment, be specific. Tell us, how many full-time positions that you're paying out for the salaries. For the programming, tell us what kind of programming needs you're, fulfilling. For equipment, give us a lot of details. If you're buying a generator, tell us what that is, right? Go beyond just saying we're purchasing office supplies. Be as descriptive as possible. The more detail you provide us, it also helps us scan the request for eligibility, because there are times where certain expenditures are not permissible, and we can work around that and help you come up with a way to make your request fit within the account that you're applying for. But if we're not aware of those details, we'll just have to, follow up with you and try to get that from you later on in the process. And that reduces the amount of time we have to work with you to get this request to work. Give us some details about performance standards that you'll be using to measure whether this project has achieved its objectives, right? How are you going to determine, if this has been a successful project? That's something that agencies and departments are also looking for. And your description, whatever you provide to us, should be as complete and as thorough as possible without references to the supporting materials. The letters of support are additional materials that bolster your narrative. So try to be as complete in your own request as possible and not rely on supporting materials to make your case for you. I'll stop there. I think a good place to look really is past awards, things that have been successful. We do publish all of that information on Senator Merkley and Senator Wyden's websites of projects that have been awarded funds in the past. You can also see all the projects we've advanced because they're eligible to the committees in the past. That's all public information. But that also gives you an idea of, how much money is within bounds for a particular subcommittee or account, right? These CIP awards range from a couple $100,000 to a couple million, and it just sort of depends what you're trying to do. So that's a good place to also look to see, okay, is my project a reasonable amount of money? Is it being used for a purpose that would be appropriate within the account? So those are other tools that you can use to help write a strong justification. And I'm going to stop here, but I think we really wanted to hear from you and turn it over to questions. So I will let Nicole and Gina help facilitate that.
Okay, well, I'll start. There is a question coming through the FAQ feature, and for folks that are curious, haven't used the feature yet, it should be on the bottom middle right of your Zoom screen, and you're welcome to type questions in there or raise your hand. The first question we have here are these funds restricted that they would exclude a church property if it was a part of a larger riverway fix for the city? I'm not sure who wants to take that one.
I would say it just sort of depends. If you could, I think we would want to work with you and the field reps of both of our teams to figure out exactly where this property is, where the church property stops, where it goes into the larger community. Those are going to be definitely questions that would come up as we go through the vetting process here with appropriators. So there's not necessarily a blanket ban here, but we would need to know more details about that. So definitely work with our field teams. Tim, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, this is Tim Leahy. I serve as Ron's Deputy State Director. I think this just highlights a little bit of the kind of the 30,000-foot question, which is each of our CIP projects are, they're all unique and individual. And the best thing to do would be to make sure you reach out to your field representative in your area and talk through those things. So it's a great question because I think it highlights how specific and individualize each project really is. And sometimes we're able to figure out how to nuance those things and work it out. And sometimes it's just like, this isn't a good fit at this time for this project, for this account. And so just be kind of open-minded and we're here to help out any way we can.
So Lavanya, is there a particular person or field rep that commissioner level should contact?
Tim and Sarah, I'm going to direct those questions to you guys
Okay.
on the state side.
Great.
Sarah, if you disagree, yeah, you go ahead first, Sarah, and we'll see if
I
our
think what
minds
we'll
were like mind meld.
Okay, that's perfect. Let's see. I think what we'll do is have, since the chat feature is closed, I will send all of the contact information for our field staff to be sent out after this webinar,
Perfect.
so that people can identify, who their regional contact will be. Tim, did I get that right?
Yeah, oh yes, I know for sure. But I think I would also just say it's okay just to hit both of them up. And Sarah and I too, for that matter. I mean, I think that it's going to be most efficient to be in touch with your field representative. There's an extreme high volume of correspondence that we are dealing with at this point with this stuff, and so feel free just to over communicate if you'd like to. But
Great. Thank
you
you. Are we ready for
we
the
do work
second
together
question?
is the point. We don't work. You
Yes.
don't feel like this person, not that person.
Appreciate that a lot. You ready for the second question? Nicole and I will tag team it. Stephanie Hastings, City of West Lynn, writes, if you have a past CIP that still doesn't have an executed grant agreement, would that exclude you from consideration this year?
So no, it wouldn't exclude you from consideration. One of the things that our portal is asking for is letting us know if you've received CIP awards in the past, and if so, for what. And so we would love to know those details. Obviously, you're not requesting, you can't request funding for the exact same thing, but we do have requesters that have received past awards that are still in the process of executing, that have been applied in the next fiscal year for a different project, maybe a different phase of a related project. And we're able to continue working with you all to advance that. The big thing that we're looking for is that as an entity, you're going to be a good steward of taxpayer dollars and execute funding in a timely fashion. So give us some details, give us some background, and then we'll have to look at that as an individual, request and go from there.
Thank you. Nicole, did you have a comment on that? Okay, no, all right. Something popped up. I'll let you take the next question.
Great. Our next question is from a member that is the first time making a request. They're finalizing their strategic plan and would like funds to support implementation. The question is, do you have links or an area to review subcommittee specifics to start the process and help them understand where they fit in best?
I'm happy to jump in here. That's a great question. I will send a few links when I finish talking here in a sec, but I think if this is your first time, a good place to start is looking at both Senator Merkley and Wyden's websites. Every year for CIPs, both senators are required to publicly disclose all of the projects that they submit to the committees, to each subcommittee that takes CIPs. So I'll send the links to both senators' websites in a sec. And if you want to just take a look through, see what past projects have looked like, I think that's a good first starting point. And then also I'll send a link to the Appropriations Committee page. Just generally, you can look through all of the subcommittees, what their jurisdiction is, and then kind of just see what's been going on lately as they've wrapped up FY26. And then just lastly, feel free to reach out to the field reps as you're working on your applications. They will be sending out, if they haven't already sent you, the FY27 Wyden Merkley guidance document that we put together. As Lavinia mentioned, it's based off of the last year's appropriations guidance, because the committee has not yet released their FY27 guidance. They'll probably be doing that in the next month or so. But that has all of the breakdowns of the different accounts and also points of contacts at different agencies and their field offices. So those are the three starting points. And like I said, I'll send in a moment here those links that I just mentioned.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions? We don't have any more questions in the chat. This is your time. We have Wyden staff and Merkley staff cornered right here for a few more minutes, so please ask questions. Okay, We have one from the city of Heppner. John Doherty writes, "We are a municipality with a population of 1,200 people. We will be completing a CIP for a water supply distribution and supply capital project. Would we apply through USDA Rural Development or another agency? EPA, Drinking Water, SRF?" Who wants to take that one?
I can jump in here. I would look through the guidance doc again. If you don't have the guidance doc, I would recommend connecting with the field rep for wherever you're at. Um, and look through the guidance doc, look through each account and each agency to figure out which fits your project best. There's not necessarily a one size fits all in what exact account you should be applying to. Or I'm not familiar enough with the accounts to give you an exact answer right now. But I would just review them and figure out where your project fits.
And I'll just put a finer point on that. Like you're on the right track with USDA or the STAG account. Often we see them come through the STAG account. And if City of Heppner, you'd have Jessica Keys in Senator Merkley's office. And I'm guessing you know her already, but if you don't, I would reach out to Jessica and her counterpart in the Wyden's office, and they can talk you through that, because there can be some nuances, but often we see the water projects go through that STAG account. Wonderful. And our next question, would water meters be a good fit? This jurisdiction has water meters that are 20 years old and lose a significant amount of water. I'll just say I know in the past we have seen water meter projects, but sorry to say the same thing again, but would again recommend talking with the field rep in your region and just making sure that it kind of meets all the criteria under that account. But we have had water meter projects in the past. Just noting too, it's a very competitive account too, so you'll want to make sure that you're making the best case for why that is critical for the community.
And to I think just add on to a little bit of what Lavanya was saying earlier too, and just as and having the context of it, thinking about how to set that project up for success. It's not specific about the water meters, but also just thinking about, well, we have some of the chunk available for the water meters, and we need a certain part to finish it, for example. Those kinds of things are going to help position your project for success, so that the federal government is like all entities want to be the last dollar in, not the first dollar in. And so thinking about your project from that perspective is helpful. Stacy's absolutely correct. It's a super competitive account. So those are the kinds of things that are helpful to consider as you're putting forward your best foot.
Excellent. Susie Dahl from Columbia County has the next question. Can a county use funding to update 40-year-old zoning ordinance and document scanning? Both would better our community for economic development. Anybody want to jump in?
Lavanya, do you have advice on that one? I can't think of like an account off the top of my head that it would fit into, but if you've heard of similar requests.
I will say the economic development related accounts are some of our most competitive accounts, and by and large receive the most requests, not just from our offices, but across the country. And so really the goal here is to show how it supports public infrastructure, community facilities, economic revitalization, potentially even workforce related needs. I would start there and look at what that the HUD webpage has a lot of details about what this kind of funding can be used for. There are very specific restrictions that get in the weeds, and I would start there and see even just the values level. Are we achieving the goals of the account? And if so, then go down deeper and see if it's a good fit. And I know that our field teams can definitely help you walk through that process, as well as DC staff here that can help determine if that's an eligible place to submit something like that. But I will say it's a very, very competitive account. So you'll want to make sure it's fulfilling the goals of the account.
And oftentimes in these circumstances, go
my
ahead.
turn.
Sorry.
No.
Please go, Stacy, you go.
I was just going to say, we've also seen in the past, at least last year, the THUD, the EDI account that Lavanya was just talking about, have even more strict requirements than in previous years, where projects that applied for that money had to demonstrate with specific percentages and numbers how that project impacted like low income to median income communities based on like census code. So it really got into some very specific things that hadn't existed in the past that will make it essentially the project really has to be able to demonstrate with like facts and figures how it benefits low income communities. So I just wanted to flag that. Sorry, Tim.
And
No, yeah, that was I think the point I was going to make, but in kind of a different angle, which is like looking at all the projects you have comprehensively as a community, and maybe this sounds like a really important project, but maybe there's something that could that's also exists in your community currently that might appeal stronger to the committee, that would achieve a lot of the same goals, that could then take the pressures off your overall budget, and then you could reallocate that to something else. So that may be a little bit less. I always say it's like, the shovels in the ground. People, they want to see something and touch it and know that it helps create jobs. And sometimes there's a lot of really important projects, but they're pretty wonky. And so if there's another project that isn't wonky, that has a really important economic impact in your community, that might be a stronger project to put forward so that you can then free up space in your budget to do this other thing without all the federal bureaucracy involved. So just keeping that construct in mind as you're being strategic about the project you put forward is my recommendation.
So Tim and others on the line, a follow-up question to that. In addition to reaching out to the field reps, would it make sense to reach out to specific agencies and ask where they think it fits?
There's some element of that that's kind of required as you go through the application process. So different accounts, for example, if you're applying for rural development, you're having the USDA RD office, locally look at that project ahead of time, and they'll give you an assessment of whether this is qualifying or not. And if you're applying, for example, for FEMA funding for emergency management, you're going to have to get the Oregon Department of Emergency and Management to look at your request and vet that request and agree that this is like the right fit for this account and an appropriate use of dollars. So that's built into the process already. And so that could be a great place for you to get a good sense of feedback of, is my project eligible or not? Certainly many of you also come out to DC and have meetings with Senators Wyden and Merkley or the DC policy staff. Please share with us in the next month or so as you're coming in, what sort of projects your counties are thinking about, because we will have policy staff here to listen to that and start looking through that already and give you some initial feedback. Those of us on this call here, we're not experts on all the different policies, and so we'll have the right folks in the room. If it's a water request, we'll have our energy and natural resources staffer, for example, in the room to take a look at that. So that's also a good way to kind of figure out, how about what account to submit under and get that feedback.
Thank you.
I would also layer onto that the feedback you receive from your other congressional offices, from your House representatives, is also important to take into consideration. So as you're talking to, just the kind of DC brain trust, if you will, whether it's agencies or it's Senate offices or House offices, just making sure you're doing your best to become in line with all the different offices and what they're thinking. I know not all offices submit CIP projects across the state, but most of them do. If your office doesn't, where the region you live, I'd encourage you to have those communications, and because maybe there's a different angle you can approach it with them. But at the end of the day, the more people that you're having in alignment with your project, I think that's going to set you up for success, or higher odds of success.
Thank you.
All right, and I'll pose this next question here. Can we prepare applications related to different projects for more than one account in the same year?
Happy to jump in. Yeah, feel free if you're working on a couple projects that you think would fit within the accounts in the CIP process. Like absolutely. Again, echoing what Sarah and Lavinia said when they opened up the meeting, just providing as much information as possible, as much detail as possible, so that as the policy staff and the field teams are going through those requests, we're not having to come back for too much information. So definitely, like, it's a bandwidth thing. If you guys do not have the bandwidth to do more than one request this first time, like that's totally understandable. A lot of folks just do one. But yes, counties and entities are definitely allowed to do more than one. It can be in different subcommittees. It can be in different accounts. Just work with the field rep in both offices that as you're going through that process, so that we can get all of the information. And if you're doing more than one project.
And just one point to add to that, we do really want to know what your priorities are. So if you are submitting multiple projects in the same account, in the same subcommittee, across different accounts and subcommittees, we do want that in priority order so that we know, what's the thing that we should start with and try to make work as much as possible. That's what really helps us figure out what to advance.
And I think too,
I would just
Tim.
I know, me and Stacy, we're just
Go ahead. I think we're about to say the same thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll let you go first. Yeah. So, and I forgot what I was going to say. Sorry, you go ahead, Stacy. I'll remember a second.
I think what you were going to say is to, like, this is one, if you have a whole bunch of, if you're like a community that has a whole bunch of projects that you're thinking about, you can totally submit a bunch under the same account even. But I really, really recommend that you talk with your local contact, your field rep, and from both offices, have that conversation, like talk through, maybe some projects are more competitive than others, or maybe we can figure out which accounts might be, maybe undersubscribed, and maybe we can really kind of put your focus on one or two projects. That just saves time and helps. It's just helpful to kind of help prioritize and think through those. Because again, you can do that, but we also, if you look at the list of projects that have been selected, we really try to get projects out to all the different communities and spread that around. And so submitting, 10 projects doesn't necessarily increase the likelihood that you're going to get more than one project. So sometimes it's just better to kind of think backward a little bit and think about and talk with your field rep and think through which ones really are the priority for that year. And there could be a strategy where you're like, I'll put one in this account, one in this account, one in this account, and see what happens. But just have those conversations early with your field rep.
Yeah, that I think that's essentially what I was going to feed off of, but just I think underscore the fact that I don't recall, maybe somebody can help remind me of that. I don't recall any organization getting 2 CIP projects in one account in 1 year. So I would recommend, we all have the same amount of hours in the day. I would really dedicate your time to your best, strongest project and really make sure that that's in top working order. If you feel like that's good to go, give another shot with your second project. But I need to put it another way: quality over quantity is something to be considered. And just remember the fact that in some of these committees, we can only submit so many projects to the committee itself, and so there's considerations into account there. So I don't recommend to people just to kind of submit just to submit. It's like a Hail Mary is not a good exercise in the CIP projects.
Great. There are no more questions. Does anybody have any more questions? Last call for questions. Please put them in the question box. Can we go around and just Geneva, we'll start with you. Just is there anything that hasn't been said yet that you think people need to know?
Thanks, Gina. I think a lot of the questions covered it. As you guys probably picked up, the common thread is just, work as closely as possible with both the Merkley and Whiting field reps in your counties. Just they all know the process really well at this point, and we'll be working closely with our folks in the DC offices and with the policy staff, and making sure that requests are up to speed so we can, do the proper review and get those into the purpose committee. I think just if you have any questions while the portals are open, make sure you're reaching out directly to the field reps. If they don't know the answer, they'll reach out to us. I know there was a question about if you're coming to DC, should we meet with policy staff? Love, and you kind of touched on that. Definitely let us, if you're here, let us know, which projects you're working on with field reps back home. And we're happy to chat if you're going to be in DC. And then after you make your submission, if you're going to be in DC in March or April, would love to meet with you then as well. It's always a very busy time of the year, as a lot of you know. But it's a good time to kind of reinforce the project priorities, and as we're probably working with you and field reps are working with you during those spring months before Merkley and Wyden submit their final requests, it's really good to stay in touch. So looking forward to hopefully seeing a lot of you guys in DC in the coming 3 months.
Great, thank you. Jacob, anything to add?
No, I think everything's been covered pretty well. Geneva just provided a great summary. I just want to emphasize that, yes, if you're in DC, please meet with us. We want to hear more about the project that you're wanting. Even if you've met with us every single year, we'd like to meet with you all again. So yeah, I just want to hammer that point home. But we're excited to bring some money back to Oregon for FY27.
Thank you, Jacob. Stacy, I'm just going around the horn here.
Okay, yeah. So I think I would say too, like, you have your local contacts here in state, use them, have joint meetings with the Wyden and the Merkley staff, talk to your House member too, and just start those conversations now. They maybe already have some familiarity with your project, and they certainly know you out in the community. So I'd say start with that, and then emphasizing what Tim said about kind of, quality over quantity, and tell the story, because the committee likes projects. The committees like projects that tell the story, and everyone wants to feel good about putting some money into a project that's going to have a big impact somewhere. So that's what I would highlight.
Thank you. Morgan.
Nothing to add from me. Just looking forward to working with you all, and yeah, as Jacob said, getting money back to Oregon.
Excellent. We're with you on that. Sarah.
Everything has been said, I think, a couple times. I will highlight something new that has not been said. The fiscal year 26 projects that were submitted, all but one of the appropriations bills has been passed by Congress. So our offices are announcing funding for projects for FY26. So keep an eye out for those announcements. It's always helpful to see what other projects have been funded in the past. It might be helpful inspiration as you are going about this process. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Tim.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Thank you for the submissions that all the folks on the calls will make. My little elevator pitch on CIPs is always that the process is lengthy. It's volatile. And it's not always the highest probability thing, but it can have a huge impact in your communities. And I mean, I won't rattle them off right now, but it's so cool after we've kind of gone through this process together to be standing in front of something and looking at it and knowing that the impact that the hard work that you guys put in and the elbow grease paid off. So we're encouraged to go through that process with you, and we appreciate your patience in advance in this lengthy process. And then I'll just add on one quick thing too. If you can't come to DC, that's okay. Like we have field reps that will come to you, or we will do Zoom calls. Like know that your project is not at a disadvantage if you can't afford to get on a flight and come to DC. So just please know that, and look forward to working with everybody.
Great. Thank you. Lavanya.
Yeah, I'll just say there are a couple of us on this call who've been here for all of the many years of CAPs that have now resumed, and we've seen some really successful outcomes. And we're just so excited to work with all of you to really get your projects in a great place to get this money at the door. We know it's long deserved, and there's a lot of work that goes into it. And so, on that note, as I mentioned, kind of at the top of what makes a strong CIP request, please, please, please just give us all the details we're asking for. Because if we just don't get that information, we will be following up with you on the back end to get that information. And it just gives us a lot less time to workshop your request before the submission deadline. The deadlines are very real. We don't make them. We have to follow them. So we just really want to make sure we get as much as we can to really get your request in a great place. We really want to see this funding go out the door. So with that, just work with our teams, whether that's in the field or out in DC. We're all here to support and get money back to Oregon.
Thank you. This is Gina from the Association of Oregon Counties. I will say that counties are going to be back in DC, about 40 of us, in 2.5 weeks. So we'll be stopping by your offices and you may hear from us. Well, no, not may. You will hear from us. Thank you. Nicole, is there anything that you'd like to say before we close it out?
Yeah, thank you, Gina, and thanks to our Wyden and Merkley teams on the line here. I also want to note we have a number of the field staff also listening in, tracking these questions. So really appreciate all of you for making time to join. In the chat, I've put the guidance document and contacts for Merkley's team by field representatives. So that is there. I would copy that now. I know both AOC and the League of Oregon Cities will include this in our materials as well, and have and will be a resource to cities and counties as they have questions. And then Gina, not to outshine you or take away your shine, but cities will also be in DC, but a couple weeks after you guys. So we'll keep the
Nobody
local
outshines. We work together.
Yes, we'll keep the local government train going, and just really much appreciation for everyone for joining today, and in particular to our federal delegation team on the call.
And so as we close this out, again, I echo what Nicole said. Thank you so much for the service that you give Oregon. All of you, Wyden and Merkley's team, we really appreciate each and every one of you. On behalf of AOC and LOC, thank you for joining us today. Everyone on the call, have a great rest of your day, and let's get some CIPs into the Oregon. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.